Good morning. My name is Eduardo Maratello, and I'm here to present the paper entitled "Are Spanish Public Employees Happier in the Work Performance in the Era of Industry 4.0?" I'm representing my fellow colleagues María José Foncubierta Rodríguez and Rafael Rovina Ripoll, both of them from the University of Cádiz in Spain. Myself, I am from the Autonomous University of Baja California, Mexico, and my colleague Luis Vallardo, Tobar-Pesántez, he's from Salesiana Politécnica University in Ecuador. This is the overview of the guidelines we're going to talk. Into the abstract, the economy of happiness has burst into the scene in recent years with a great deal of momentum. There's a lot of papers talking about this subject. It is important to understand that the pandemic situation that we live in has increased the focus on this subject in the management, because we have a lot of people working with a lot of issues in their heads and a lot of insecurities for their job, and so it is important to understand how can we improve our job situation and people satisfaction so they can be as productive as the most productive as they can. Since the late 20th century, economists have been attracted to studying the economics of happiness, and happiness is usually called as satisfaction, well-being, or equality or quality of life in several studies. Under this umbrella, the happiness management culture teaches us that a management model oriented to the holistic search for happiness or job satisfaction of its employees is one of the most important axial pieces that organizations have applied to increase the commitment of the human capital and therefore the productivity and business performance. The era of Industry 4.0 is a period that is characterized, among other things, by the high level of precariousness in employment that is caused by the implementation of management models based on products and service innovations. This phenomenon is derived from the technological perspective by the automation and massive robotization of the productive processes and the supply chain. Together with companies, digitalization, both factors are very present in today's productive ecosystem. So we can see in the image that from the first industrial revolution to this one, it's getting more intrusive. The paper of the role of the technology in the working process. A more holistic examination of this issue seems likely to show a strong interest among people to enter into mainstream government work rather than private work. In this way, such individuals, those who can get into public employment, can obtain an indefinite contract or tenure for their entire working life. As is well known, this fact is mainly accentuated in countries with high unemployment levels, such as Spain, where the unemployment rate is 20.1% in mid-2020, increased by the pandemic situation that we're living. In the collective imagination of citizens, there is a conviction that this type of work constitutes ambrosia of eudaimonic happiness, job security, and quality of life, especially in times of crisis, like this one that we're living right now. There's been an increasingly happiness studies all over the world. We can see here three different examples of what happiness is going to be. It's getting it's getting a lot of importance into the companies' studies. It should be noted that in the last decade of the 21st century, there has been a growing interest in researching job satisfaction of public employees. Most studies on this scientific topic now show empirically that public sector workers are happier than individuals in the private sphere. It is basically due to this type of government entities' intrinsic benefits concerning to profit organization, including flexibility, holidays, or family reconciliation. So this is the main point in motivation for this study. Our methodology, the methodology we use, is based on an exploratory analysis has been carried out of a correlational and inferential nature. The preliminary information has been extracted from the database offered by the study called Citizens in the State Orientation, which was carried out by the Centro de Investigaciones Sociológicas of Spain between April and June every year. The sample size is 1,834 people of both sexes. It has been staged and stratified by clusters with a selection of primary sample units as municipalities and secondary units as sections, at random and proportional, and the latter teams individuals by an expected route and sex and age quota. The sampling error for a 95.5 confidence level and P equal Q, the actual error is plus 2.3% for the sample as a whole. And in the case of simple random sampling, given the above, it is convenient to indicate on the one hand that the CIS survey was carried out by means of a questionnaire that was developed in the homes of the people interviewed. This is the most common form used by large government research centers, precisely because it provides the most powerful communication context to guarantee the quality of the information collected. The questions used in this research are the following. In the item P76B, the question is, do you work the public administration, a public company, a private company? Item P44, to what extent are you satisfied with your work? Next one is, how much do you agree or disagree that your salary is high? To what extent do you agree or disagree that your employment is safe? And how much do you agree or disagree that your job is stressful? This, among them, and the complement. This is a complement because the first questions are basically trying to understand how different is the perception of happiness between employees in private sectors and public sectors. And the last three items, they're trying to understand or trying to explain the influence of those three variables into the happiness perception. Those variables are salary, are employment, and job stress. So once the variables of our research have been selected, we move on to examine the influence that the parameters expressed above have on the level of happiness of Spanish employees, whether they are public or private employees in the era of Industry 4.0, as it is adaptable to the nation. Then we have the following hypothesis. Hypothesis 1, the type of organization directly and positively affects worker happiness. The second hypothesis, wages directly and positively affect the happiness of employees. This means for more wages, then they're going to feel more happy. Job stability directly and positively affects employees' happiness. And the last one, stress directly and negatively affects employees' happiness. Such as stress is a factor that is contradictory to the perception of happiness. In the area of results, firstly, and in the terms of the degree of happiness in each sector, 69.3% of public workers are very or delighted compared to 52% of the private sector workers. The Kolmogorov-Smirnov and Shapiro-Wilkins test show that the sector categories have non-parametric distribution. Therefore, the contrast of the null hypothesis concerning the possible association relation with P44 is measured by calculating the significance in man-witness U-test, which turns out to have a significance of 0.0. Since the survey has many valid answers, the T-student test is also carried out, which gives also significance of 0.0. The null hypothesis is rejected and the association is confirmed. The average are 2.5 in the public sector and 2.59 in the private sector, confirming that public workers are more satisfied than private workers. The correlation of both Spearman and Pearson are positive, but weak, at around 17%, with a significance of 0.0. In the second part, the possible association relation between the workers' degree of satisfaction in each sector with certain working conditions are analyzed in this table. In the salary conformity variable, we find that 37.8% of public sector respondents say that they are very much or fully agreed with the salary received. The same is not true of private sector employees, who represent 20.9%. 60 point, by example, 16.9 percentage points less than the group under analysis. The respective average for both groups are 2.96 and 3.31. From this information, the non-parametric contracts of Spearman and Pearson were carried out, which revealed at 14.3% the existence of a positive association at a level of statistical significance less than the 1% error. In the light of this data, we can see that the full null hypothesis is therefore rejected. So in the salary, we can see here the difference between public sector and private sector. So the people in private sector have more a good perception of the salary. In the job stability, 79.7% of public sector respondents reported being very or totally safe in their jobs. 79.7%. Is slightly higher than the expressed by private employees, who recorded 64.8%. So people working in public sector feel more secure in their job. The average security perceived was 1.83 points for public employees and 2.37 points for remote employees or private employees. The Spearman, we can see in security over here, the Spearman in the Pearson test for correlation, we can see that the positive correlation between security and work and happiness at a level of statistical significance of 1%. So also the null hypothesis is rejected in both sectors, confirming a relationship of association between both variables. So in both sectors, public and private, they feel security in a large way. In both sectors analyzed in this section, we can find that the highest proportion of respondents stated that they sometimes feel the tension in the course of their work, precisely 37.1% public and 34.4% private. In the public group, 38.5% of workers report having stress frequently, while in private employees, the rate rises to 44%. So people working in the private sector are more stressed than people working in public sector. Also under these circumstances, we also reject the null hypothesis. So we accept that the stress is negatively correlated with the perception of happiness. Under these circumstances, we go to our conclusions. Our conclusions from this theoretical point of view, the statistical analysis elaborated here suggested that public employees are more satisfied with their professional performance than private sector employees in the era Industry 4.0. This finding confirms the conceptual orientation of happiness management that links happiness interaction with the type of organization. Studies have demonstrated that wages have a positive effect on employees' happiness, and its relationship is more vital for public employees. So the employment stability is positively related to happiness for any employees. The empirical evidence is supported by the work of Thompson and Brooklyn and Origo and Pagani, among others. Satisfaction or happiness is more excellent in public workers than in private workers for all security levels, because of the perception that they could have much more stable work than the private sector, which is based on competitiveness and also in other factors that can affect the permanence of the job. There is a lack of a statistical association between the psychosocial dimension of stress and happiness in public employees. So this study of these variables opens a new opportunity to increase the approximation to the influence of stress in the life of people. About the group of employees in private companies, it is shown that lower levels of stress generate, in general, higher levels of individual happiness. These results coincide largely with the study carried out in several Italian organizations by Chirumbolo at 2020. Thank you, and we can maintain contact with I'm using this email. Thank you very much for your attention.